Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. I'm going to tell you some things today about sacred geometry. But first, I need to tell you what date it is. Today is the fourth day of February 2026. I'm going to be reading from a work here called Sacred Geometry. Um, the, the author is Robert. That's R-O, sorry, that's Lowlor. Sacred Geometry, Philosophy, and Practice. There is sacred geometry in all our churches these days. To an older church, you can find out these proportions, what's in these stained glass windows. It's a way of revealing truth. Um, Phil Langdon would know more about that than I would, because I'm just basically trying to grasp the ideas here of this particular book. So this is called Proportion and the Golden Section. And so we're going to be reading from that particular part of the book. And so just bear with me as I get to the area where I need to be reading at. Scrolling through here. One of the things we did talk about in chapter 1 was what we call universal or universe consciousness. And on the outside, two outside space, this is what we call the Vesicus Pisces, which is the fish bladder. And on the one is actually on the left is the universal or universe consciousness, which is solar, which is the source of gold. On the other extreme side is empirical consciousness, which is lunar, which is reflective, that is reflection, that is of silver, which means it's changing, it's actuality, it's pluralism, while on the other side, universe I keep saying, is unchanging, archetypical realm, reality, and unification. And in the middle, as they would say, the fish bladder, balancing of the consciousness. So this is like the left and right, again, of your brain. It's proportionally that is human consciousness and meditation. We dealt with that on in the past. I'm going to change something here because this thing is too bright in the white. So I'm here. So we've gone through 4 chapters of the book. And you can follow me along here if you want to. You can actually go to a place here on the internet and download this book and read it and yourself. It doesn't cost you anything. I don't understand why people do not pursue these things. Right there, it's there. It's free, and people choose not to look into it. They're convinced, I think, simply as they know it all. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people on this planet who think they know it all. And the sad part, simply, you don't know it all. Neither do I. I think they know it all. They've accomplished something, but and neither have I. I haven't met God. The only person I know has met God is Phil Langdon. So this is again chapter 5 called Proportion and the Golden Section. And there's a reading here, so we'll get to it. It was the goal of many traditional esoterics. This is esoteric, meaning inward, not X. X is outside. X means X. You see, SES means interior, which is you. To lead back towards the sense of oneness. Yes, but the reason why we're lost or we don't understand anything is we're in duality. You see, we don't understand who we are. We are, go from one extreme to the other extreme, so to speak. From what we call the right and the left brain, so to speak, the feminine and the masculine. And when you unite that becomes the marriage. United. You're no longer in separation. You're no longer divided. A proportion is formed from ratios, and a ratio is a comparison of two different sizes, qualities, or ideas, and expressed by the formula of A, B, that is A and B, period. A ratio then constitutes a measure of a difference to which at least one of our sensor faculties can respond. The perceived world is then made up of intricate woven patterns of, as Gregory Basin said, differences which make a difference, end quote. Not only then is a ratio, A and the fundamental notion for all activities of perception, but it signals one of the most basic process of intelligence in that it symbolizes comparison between two things and is thus the elementary base of perceptual judgment. A proportion, however, is more complex, or is a relationship of equality between two ratios. That is to say, one element is to a second element as a third element is to four. For example, A is to B and B is to D, or A, B, C equals D. It represents a level of intelligence more subtle and profound than the direct response to a simple difference is the ratio. And it was known in Greek thought as analogy. When we think with four elements, that is with two different, we locate our thought that is within the range of manifestation of the natural world, since four is the number dash symbol indicator of the finite rational world of procreative form. So A then C is a general formula of four elements. The same thing is said numerically by 2 and 4 and 3 and 6. The Pythagoreans called this procedure of thinking a discontinuous portion of four terms. When we further limit ourselves to three terms, that is when we lift ourselves one level to the principles or activities, that is threeness, we find that the determination becomes more exacting through the reduction of the number of elements involved. Thus, one element is to a second element as the second element is to the third. Here, the extremes are bound together by a mean term, being B. In other words, A is to B, so you'll see that B is the term here. The Greeks called this a continuous proportion of three terms, and this indicates a decided shift in the symbolization of perceptual and conceptual processes. Nicomacheus, that's spelled Nicomachus, and other Greek philosophers considered it as the only one which can be regarded as strictly analogous. It is the perceiver himself, B, who forms the equivalency of or identity between observed differences, that is from A and C. The perceiver no longer stands outside the comparable activity as in the four term discontinuous or disjunctive mode, which images the perceived differences as being separate, I should say, ratios or distinctions. Perhaps an example would be helpful here. Our experience of the world is due to our organs of perception being sensitive to variations of the wave frequency pattern which surround and prevail our field of awareness. We distinguish a cup from a green tablecloth only because our optic nerves set up a brain wave pattern which corresponds to the frequency patterns emanating from the cup to the tablecloth. The perceiver himself is then the indispensable bond in the registration of these variations in external frequency patterns, interpreting and distinguishing them as objects such as the cup and the tablecloth. Many philosophers speak of reaching a state of consciousness in which one is constantly aware of this integration and between the apparent external vibratorial field and the inner field of perception. This mode of perceptive awareness, which we comparably to a three-term continuous proportion, was referred to a gentleman named by Sir S.R.I. Agro, S.A.U.R.O. B.I.N.D.O. as, quote, knowledge by identity, end quote, as regarded as an important stage in the process of spiritual development. While acknowledging an external source of experience, we recognize that it is in a continuous or continual flow of relationship with our internal faculties, perception, cognition, and not the itself that we are experiencing. The objective world then is interdependent with the entire physical, mental, logical individual, and will be altered by changes in its inward condition. It is possible to become aware of drawing the external object out of the totality of our inner space, thus fusing together the contemplation of the self and world. Is then a three-term proportion as close as we can approach the sense of unity with proportional thinking? The question is no, there is one and only one proportional division which is possible with two terms. This occurs when the similar term is to the larger term in the same way as the larger term is to the smaller plus the larger. It is written A is B, B is B, and then in brackets it says A plus B. The largest term, A plus B, must be a wholeness or a unit composed of the sum of the other two terms. Historically, this unique geometric proportion of two terms has been given this name golden proportion, end quote. And is designated by the 21st letter of the Greek alphabet, phi, although it was known by cultures much older than the Greeks. There are two importantly different ways to consider the primary geometric proportion in relation to unity. The first occurs when the largest term, that is in brackets, in this case would be A plus B equals greater than 1 or unity. The second case occurs when the larger term is A plus B equals unity or 1. And then the formula would be A, B, and B is 1. Each of these gives rise to important characteristics of phi. What we are following in this chapter is essentially a set theory description of all the possible terms or types of geometric proportions. We have been isolated two major sets of geometric proportions, the 4-term and the 3-term. Within the 3-term continuous proportion, we have defined a special subset in which the 3rd term is equal to the 1st term plus the 2nd term. So A is B, and then B is B equal to A is B, B, and then on the brackets is A plus B. So that actually only two terms, A and B, are found in the 3rd proportion. This is called phi, the golden proportion. The fact that it is 3-term proportion constructed from 2 terms is a first distinguishing characteristic and is parallel with the first mystery of the Holy Trinity, the 3 that are 2. In the first figure, two equal line lengths, I should say, have been divided in such a way that A and B and A plus B or B/A equals 4. The first case shows a proportion in which the whole line is larger than a unity. Unity is defined as the segment B with the segment A, an expansion of it, attached to it, making the whole line A plus B. In proportionally thought, there are no fixed quantities. only fixed relationships. The quantitative value may shift, but the relational configuration remains the same. Here we give here we give B equals 1 to assure that the whole is more than unity and is also relational expansion of unity. First term equals A. Second term equals B equals 1. Third term equals B plus A equals A plus 1. And I'll show this on here where they divided A with B, and then A, and then the lower part A plus B, or at the top being B is A plus 1. There are numerous examples of this type of proportions where the third term, that is A plus B, is greater than 1 in the phi progression as in the fundamental square 2 proportion. These two examples are drawn from families of three-term geometric proportions in which the third term is relational expansion of unity and therefore larger than unity. No matter where this curriculum is raised on the diameter, it will always be the geometric mean term between the two segments of the diameter. The line constitutes a wholeness, meaning a unity. First case, the whole is more than 1. Second case, the whole is equal to 1. So we'd be saying simply A plus B equals 1 plus A. Or it would be the second case would be simply the whole is equal to 1, would be A plus B equals 1. In the second figure, we shift the value of unity from the part to the whole so that the divisions must be less than 1. In doing so, we will find the second and completely unique characteristics of phi as the only geometric positioning of unity. This maneuver of shifting value is typical of numerous problems found in the oldest known mathematical texts from both Egypt and Babylonian, and was a basic technique of ancient mathematical procedure. In this case, first term equals A equals 1 minus B. Second term equals B equals 1 minus A. Third term equals A plus B equals 1. So all go back and forth, you see here. Or so A over B, and then you have B over 1. Or B squared equals A times 1. Or B squared equals A. Or B pi A. This algebraic formation is fully demonstrated geometrically in workbook 5. Here we have the root of its equal of A, that is, as equal as the root of B squared, so that A and B are in relationship to one another as a root is to a square. This necessitates that as the third term in a geometric proportion, A plus B equals 1, must in this case be a square plus its root equals 1. Pi is the unique division which fulfills this characteristic. 1 divided by pi plus 1 pi squared equals 1. This completes the mathematical metaphor for the Trinity. 3 that are 2 that are 1. It is the ultimate reduction of proportional thought to the casual singularity. If we once again use proportion as a model for the perceptual activity based on the recognition of differences, we have in this unique golden proportion, quote, within, end quote. Unity, a case where the perceived differences, that is, in brackets, that which we experience as an object, in bracket, plus the perceiver of that object was symbolized as contained within a sustained awareness of a all, that is encompassing unity. That's A and B is 1. This perceptual state corresponds to the goal of dynamic meditation. The golden proportion is a constant ratio derived from a geometry relationship which, like pi and other constants of this type, is irrational, end quote, in numerical terms. I have therefore tried to avoid initially perceiving, or I should say presenting, the golden proportion as a numerical quality, i.e., and then pi equals 1.6180339, or pi equals square phi plus 1 in brackets divided by 2. But instead have demonstrated that it is the first and foremost a proportion, not a number, a proportion upon which the experience of knowledge, that is logos, is founded, or logos. In a sense, the golden proportion can be considered as super-rational or transcendent. It is actually the first issue of oneness, the only possible creative duality within unity. It is the most intimate relationship, one might say, that proportionally existence the universe can have with unity, the primal or first division of one. For this reason, the ancients called it, quote, golden, end quote, the perfect division, and the Christians have related this proportional symbol to the Son of God. Why, it may be asked, cannot unity simply divide into two equal parts? Why not have a proportion of one term, that's A and A? Question mark. The answer is simple. That with equality, there is no difference. And without difference, there is no perceptual universe. Or as the Upanishad said, quote, whether we know it or not, all things take on their existence from that which perceives them, end quote. In a static equational statement, one part nullifies the other. An asymmetric division is needed in order to create the dynamics necessary for progression and distinction from the unity. Therefore, pi, proportionally, is the perfect division of unity. It is creative. Yet the entire proportional universe that results from it relates back to it and is literally contained within it, since no term of the original division steps, as it were, outside of a direct rapport with the initiative division of unity. This is the central difference between the division of unity by the square root of 2 as its division by pi, both of which are geometrically proportionate, as the geometry of the formula shows. Through the creation of square root of 2, we are immediately propelled outside the original square. So this marks the beginning of an endless, ever expanding progression and proliferation, leading further and further away from the original unity. There is no possible way with square root of 2 to have a geometric internal division of unity. Division by pi, on the other hand, gives a model of evolution which has its goal, the image of the perfection of the original unity. And this goes into what I call a progression by golden division. And it will be 1, and I won't go all through this, it's pretty simple. Progression by the square root of 2, also division. To analyze these two progressions, we shall recall some basic ideas from the grammar of our geometric language. A square figure such as pi over 2 represents the first plane of manifestation, that of ideation or image, where a notion first becomes comprehensible. A cubic figure such as pi over 3 represents the same notion, idea, or image as it manifests the physical and volumetry form. The inverses of these symbols, 1 over 2 square of pi, or 1 over pi 3, are the same principles contained within unity. That is, they are fractions or internal parts of 1, representing the preconception stage of these levels of manifestation. Let's remember also that 1 is the symbol of God. The golden division is the only continuous proportion that yields a progression in which the terms representing the external universe, pi over 2 and pi over 3, are an exact, continuous, proportionate reflection of the internal progression. The creative dream of God, the pi, the square root of 2, progression, on the contrary, is strictly a procreative power, functioning generally only on the external plane. Let us again contrast the qualities of these two geometric progressions, pi and square root of 2, as models for evolution, progression being an apt analogy for the evolutionary process, looking this time at the phase of evolution which moves from a metaphysic proportionate principle to the physical world. The golden progression shows the possibility not of a quantitative statistical evolution, as with the square root of 2 model to which Darwinian adaptation conforms, but instead of evolution guided from within, a exaltation of the initial qualities of divine ideation passing directly from the abstract into the concrete or visible, where the manifest world is an image of the divine, a replication or son of God. And then it has in brackets unity. The golden proportion represents indisputable proportional evidence of the possibility of a conscious evolution as well as of an evolutionary of consciousness. St. John wrote of the creative moment or original schism, quote, in the beginning was the word, end quote, or in Greek, logos, which meaning a three-term proportion. And the word was with God, that is in brackets, the phrase with God, end quote, can also be read, quote, in God, and in brackets, in bracket. And the word was God. Looking closely at these three phases, one can see that they intuitively describe the geometric implications of the golden proportion, meaning in the beginning was the word, and the word was, quote, with or in God, and the word was God. So that is be what we call it here, the end of chapter 5. So we're stopped here at this point. Again, my name is Brant Hunt. My channel simply is Discerning What is True. And so briefly wanted to share this with you today. Again, this is from Sacred Geometry, chapter 5, Proportion and the Golden Section. And the author's name is simply I just forgot his name. All of a sudden, just forgot it. Shoot. Bear with me. Robert Lawlor. Okay, Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T, Lawlor, L-A-W-L-O-R is his name. So if you want to find that particular book, you can download it from a site simply called, let me find it for you real quick. I'm trying to find it for you here real quick, so just bear with me. Can't find it for some reason. I don't know why it's not coming up here. Well, it's from a site called We Live, which is simply called We Library, I guess you call it, W-E-L-I-B. Get it up here. So it's just simply from WELIB.org. And then you just type in the title of the author or the ISBN number or a DOI, which I don't know what that is, but that's where you can find the book if you want to download it and read it on the internet. Okay. Thank you for being here. Again, today is the 4th day of February 2026. And hopefully you have a good day. Wish you a good day. And again, we'll probably look at chapter 6 in the next couple of days. And thank you again. Take care.